Welcome back to Channel Name. Today's recap is about a classic 1997 American science fiction action film called Starship Troopers. The movie is set in the 23rd century and follows the story of exploits of Johnny Rico and his friends as they serve the military for the Earth world government, which is in charge of humanity's space exploration and colonization, which brings them into conflict with an extraterrestrial species known as Arachnids. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The United Citizen Federation, a military organization established decades earlier by the veterans when democracy and social scientists drove society to the verge of collapse, ruled Earth in the 23rd century. Citizenship can only be obtained by federal service, and it comes with privileges that aren't available to regular people like voting or procreation. Future humanity is in tense diplomatic relations with an alien race whose homeworld is the planet Klendathu, one of the many planets inhabited by these beings known as the Arachnids or bugs. The planet is located on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. In the history of Earth, several hundred years after a revolution by Galactic War veterans overthrew the world's governments and imposed a militaristic regime known as the Global Federation of Earth, the military came to possess immense power. The intent to eliminate the planet Klendathu to protect Earth and humanity. Meanwhile, in Buenos Aires, John or Johnny D. Rico, his psychic best buddy Carl, and girlfriend Carmen get their high school diplomas. Rico attends a class where the professor talks about how democracies failed in the past. He adds that voting, which is only for citizens, and it's an exercise of political force which has resolved more issues throughout the history than anything else. Rico seems puzzled, so he can ask the professor the moral difference between a civilian and a citizen. Professor notes that citizens protect their society's politics, while the civilian doesn't. After class, Rico and his girlfriend Carmen head to the school's bulletin board where Carmen sees her high test scores, while Carmen checks that he failed. His best friend Carl teases him and then asks about his relationship with Carmen. He mentions that Dizzy is also interested in Rico, but Rico wants Carmen. Later in the biology class, they dissect an alien bug. The professor says that the bug is superior to humans for its rapid reproduction and selfless instincts. As Rico pulls out the organs, Carmen turns away in disgust. Carmen argues the notion of the professor by saying that humans created art and math. But the teacher highlighted the bug's evolution, which allowed them to colonize planets by sending their spores into space. Completely unaware of Carmen's disgust, Rico hands her the parts, causing her to throw up. Dizzy finds the situation hilarious as she laughs it off with the others. After class, Rico goes to Carl's house that afternoon to train his psychic abilities, but he fails. Carl knows that they still haven't discovered why some people develop these abilities and see why the university does the federal studies. Carl's cat messes up with his computer, so he uses his psychic ability to send it to his mother. Carl says that he can't do that kind of manipulation on humans yet. The next day, there's a jump game at the opponent. Zander tries to seduce Carmen to distract Rico. However, Rico still manages to win the game for his team. To get citizenship, Carmen and Carl join the military. Johnny defies his parents' wishes and enlists in the military as well because he wants to follow his girlfriend and best friend. He discovers, however, that his grades are too poor to enroll with Carmen in flight school, so is given a position with the mobile infantry while Carl is assigned to military intelligence. The ruthless career Sergeant Zim drills Johnny and the other fresh recruits. As a result of his great leadership abilities, Johnny gets promoted to squad commander. He also meets Dizzy Flores, a former classmate from high school, who has asked to be transferred to Johnny's unit, ostensibly because it's the hardest, but really because she's in love with him. Johnny finds out throughout the course of the next weeks at boot camp that Carmen is pleased with her training and is working with Zander, a competitor from his high school. Her choice to join the fleet as her job destroys Johnny's hopes for the future of his relationship with her as well. In line with military rules, Johnny is stripped of his squad leader duties and publicly flogged after a training event in which one of his team members is murdered. The video phone call that Johnny is using to inform his parents that he's leaving the infantry gets cut off. His parents and the majority of the inhabitants of Buenos Aires were killed when an asteroid sent by the bugs hit Earth and destroyed the metropolis. Following this covert operation, Earth declares war on the bugs, and Johnny decides to stay with the infantry after consulting with Zim and their commanding commander. Due to a miscalculation of their adversaries' battle prowess and overwhelming numbers, the Federation forces launch a massive assault of Klendathu, which turns into a complete failure. Huge tanker bugs that were formerly considered to be flame-spewing combat tanks on the surface are actually large artillery units that are capable of surface-to-space barrages that may seriously harm the fleet in space. The mobile infantry on the surface is cut off from air assistance and is overpowered by swarms of thousands of bug warriors, since a large portion of the fleet in orbit has been killed or severely damaged. Before a withdrawal can be carried out, over 100,000 soldiers are slain. Several of Johnny's fellow recruits are also murdered, and Johnny sustained serious injuries. Carmen checks up Johnny Rico's name on a computer screen later at the Ticonderoga conflict station, where the remnants of the fleet are docked. It lists 308,563 victims from the single-day battle, the majority of whom were KIA or MIA. Because of a mistake in the casualty count, Carmen thinks Johnny is dead even though his unit is all but destroyed. In reality, Johnny is receiving treatment from the medical team while having his legs wound closed. Scientists from the Federation are perplexed by the bug's military strategy and hypothesize that there must be a castle of brain bugs that operate as generals for the Arachnids. After being treated for a few days, Johnny, Dizzy, and squadmate Ace Levy are transferred to the Roughnecks, a special division of the mobile infantry under the command of Lieutenant Jean Rasczak, a bug war veteran who was dragged out of retirement to command the group. The campaign is revised by a new Sky Marshal back on Earth, who uses attacks on other worlds in the Klendathu system to gather additional information about the Arachnid strategies. Lieutenant Rasczak's unit landed on Planet P to launch a ground assault following aerial napalm attacks against the planets. Johnny receives a field promotion to corporal for his leadership and fighting prowess in taking out a tanker bug. Lieutenant Rasczak allows the squad to unwind that night, and Johnny and Dizzy eventually fall asleep. A few days later, the Roughnecks are given the task of looking to a Planet P station where they discover the garrison dead and hear that the bugs had drained the brains out of some of the corpses. They discover General Owen, the despicable commanding officer who ordered the slaughter, still alive and babbling about some sort of leader bug. Thousands of warrior bugs suddenly assault the outpost, assisted by several tanker and flyer bugs. The majority of the squad is slain, including Lieutenant Rasczak and General Owen. Assuming leadership, Johnny calls for an evacuation ship, which is actually being commanded by Carmen and Zander. A warrior beetle stamps Dizzy to death, and she passes away in Johnny's arms. Johnny and Carmen are joined by Carl, who's now a high-rank colonel in the military intelligence, after Dizzy's burial is held on a spaceship. Johnny is upset when Carl says that the Roughnecks were used as bait to test a hypothesis, but the idea, the presence of brain bugs that mostly regulate the behavior of arachnids, has shown out to be accurate. The Roughnecks are tasked by Carl with finding a brain bug on Planet P. Johnny receives a promotion to lieutenant and is given command of the Roughnecks by Carl. Hundreds of planetary tanker bugs once more fire at the fleet in orbit, while the Roughnecks probe the planet's surface. Arachnid plasma fire is directed towards the battleship Roger Young, where Carmen is serving as the pilot during the attack. Cutting the ship in half, Carmen and Zander are able to escape in an escape pod that falls several meters underground, deep inside a bug nest. As soon as Johnny is made aware of Carmen's predicament, he orders the rest of the team to continue exploring the network of caverns they have been patrolling, while he, Ace, and Sugar Watkins look for Carmen in the underground passageways. Carl, who possesses telepathic abilities, can give Johnny some direction by using his mind. They eventually come upon Carmen and Zander just as the brain bug leader is sucking Zander's brain out. Carmen uses a knife that Zander had earlier given her to cut the insect, thus saving herself. Watkins, who's hurt, gives himself up so that a little nuclear weapon may destroy the insect colony. When Johnny, Ace, and Carmen reach the surface, they discover that the mobile infantry, under the command of former Sergeant Sim, who has been reduced to private in order to participate in war, has discovered the brain bug. Carl meets Johnny and Carmen on the surface as everyone is jubilant and explains that they will be able to understand how the bugs think and can change the course of the conflict. Another propaganda newsreel shows Johnny, Ace, and Carmen continuing their military duty as heroes as the film comes to a close. As the battle against the bugs goes on, Johnny serving as the Roughnecks leader and Carmen serving as the captain of her own ship are shown as excellent models to new recruits. That is all about this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with such interesting movie recap videos here.